Not everybody went to Gethsemane with Jesus. Only those that were invited. And who is it that he invited to Gethsemane? He invited those that were closest to him. He didn't even invite all of his disciples, right? He didn't invite all of the people that surrounded him. He only invited those that were closest to him to enter Gethsemane with him. It was a private setting. It had a family feel to it. And then in Gethsemane, right before it the last summer, and in Gethsemane was sort of when Jesus kind of sealed the deal about a bloodline, if you want to talk about family references, right? I mean, when he into the Last Supper, right before they go to Gethsemane, he says, man, this is my blood which I shed for you. And then he goes to Gethsemane and he sweats blood and he sort of seals the deal that he's going to shed his blood. And the difference that's going to make, that's going to create the family bloodline. So here's one of the things I think that's key about Gethsemane that kind of makes Gethsemane a little bit unique or a little bit different, is that I believe at Gethsemane, Jesus was teaching us to embrace God's family, warts and all. I believe that's what he's teaching us. He's teaching us to embrace God's family, warts and all. For instance, look at the context of Gethsemane. What's happening with the family while he's in Gethsemane? One family member is betraying him. Do you recognize that, right? While he's there and he's praying through the hardship that he's going to have to go through the missional thing that he's going to have to do, what's happening? One family member is off, and he's actually bringing the soldiers in that's going to arrest Jesus. So there's a level of betrayal that's happening in the midst of Gethsemane. All the other family members are like totally disconnected with the stress that he's going through, and they're disinterested in it. You know the story. He goes and he says, wait with me, and seek and pray. And then he goes off and he prays, and when he comes back, everybody's asleep. And they're all asleep, and he's like, hey, everybody, what are you doing? I need your support. I need your encouragement. I need your help in this hour. These are tough things for me right now. Help me here. And he goes away, and he comes back, and they're sleeping. I mean, they're sort of disinterested. And he knows in just a few minutes that all of them are going to flee the scene, and all except for one are going to deny him. So even in the midst of Gethsemane, in the midst of this time, Jesus is really dealing with some, so to say, family disappointment. Now, all of us here, you know, as we have our family, we love them, we care about them, they're so important to us, they're vital in life, but all of us have experienced family disappointments. I'm right about that, aren't I? You know the old saying that those that are closest to us often can cause us the most pain? I mean, all of us have had different disappointments and different discouragement, and let's admit it. I mean, family, no matter how much we love them and how much we care about them, family is hard work. I mean, when one family member struggles, we all struggle. When one family member is having a hard time, we don't abandon them and leave them. And even when a family member may by their own decision or by their own choice cause pain, if we're truly going to be connected to the family, what do? We don't abandon them. We stick with them. Man, we go the journey with them. And in fact, what's the old saying? The old saying about family is, blood is thicker than water. And you know what that means? It doesn't just simply pass through us as though it's nothing. It doesn't just simply slip by, but family sticks with us because it's thicker than the things that would just pass by. And so Jesus is in the midst of all of this family dysfunction. All the family dysfunction that's happening. You know, one's betraying, you know, they're all kind of abandoning him. And in the midst of that, he cries out in a very vulnerable way, Daddy. In other words, hey, this is my family. And in spite of my family's faults and in spite of their failures, in spite of everything that's happening, I'm going to be faithful. Because you do realize he's going to go out and he's going to hit the cross, and he's going to go through the cross for all of those that have betrayed and denied and abandoned. And he's saying, hey, this is it. This is my family. You know, my dad used to say to me, and I think it's sort of similar to this story. My dad used to say to me, and he had a lot of different little phrases, but one of his phrases used to be, keep your knees bent and keep your eyes up. Keep your knees bent and keep your eyes up. And then this is how he would like the parentheses afterwards. He would say this. He'd say, now, Dave, if you keep your eyes on the people next to you, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to get discouraged. Sooner or later, you're going to be let down. They're not going to always think like you do or feel like you do or believe what it is that you believe or that's what's going to happen. And sooner or later, if your eyes are always focused on the person next to you, sooner or later, they're going to let you down. And then he said this, including me. I mean, if you look too closely, if you examine too much, there's going to be at some point that you look and you find the differences and you see the issues at hand. And so don't put your eyes on me. I mean, man, keep your knees bent and keep your eyes up. Focus on him. So in the midst of Gethsemane, Jesus is sort of teaching us this lesson. In the midst of all of this family dysfunction, Jesus displays unconditional love for God's family. And the intimacy of the Father breaks through in Jesus' response to the family of God. So I think there's a significant lesson about God's family that we can see in Gethsemane. And then I think there's a very specific teaching about mission. Because as Gethsemane is the place where Jesus teaches us to embrace God's family, warts and all, Gethsemane is also the place where Jesus embraces God's mission, sacrifice and all. He teaches us that. You see, Gethsemane is about living life under a calling or living a life with purpose. So Jesus says this, and we've read it, right? Jesus says, "Let this cup pass from me. But not my will be done, your will be done." Do you want to know why Jesus was in Gethsemane? Jesus wasn't in Gethsemane because he was having a stressful day. Jesus wasn't in Gethsemane because somebody mistreated him and he was upset about it. Jesus wasn't in Gethsemane because what he brought in was less than what he spent. I mean, Jesus wasn't in Gethsemane for any of those reasons. You want to know why Jesus was in Gethsemane? Jesus was in Gethsemane because at the other end was the cross. Jesus was in Gethsemane because of the cross. I mean, it wasn't just another run of the mill stressful day. It wasn't just, this is another thing that we deal with in life that we have to manage. And I mean, Jesus was in Gethsemane because God wanted to do something very specific through him. I mean, he was embracing what it is that God's will was for his life. And Gethsemane is about embracing God's calling on you. And you know, when you accept God's calling in life, when you accept God's calling in life, there is a deep level of intimacy that comes with it. When you embrace what he's made you for, when you embrace the purpose that he has for you, when he embraces the calling upon you, when you step into your family role, there's a level of intimacy and connection that comes along with that. So I have this conversation often. And you probably do too with folks. You have the conversation where somebody comes to you and they say, you know, God's just been so distant from me. I just can't seem to hear him, and I don't feel him close to me, and I'm having struggle identifying his voice. And, well, you know, it's in Gethsemane that God moves from being father to being daddy. It's in Gethsemane where that happens. When was the last time that you experienced the intimacy with God, that you look back and you say, I want you to know those were the days. I mean, those were the days, man. I mean, man, I felt so close to God, and it was such a wonderful thing. Do you think back to those days? You know, this past summer I had taken a trip to Ohio to my home church, and there was a close friend of the family that had passed away, and I'd gone to the funeral, and so I saw some people that literally I hadn't seen for decades. And one of the people that I saw, this is what they said to me. They were a little older than me, about 10 years older than me, but this is what she said to me. She says, the greatest days in the church, I mean, when things are really happening, is when you and Matt and Jim and Brian, we're all teenagers here. Now, I want you to know this. That wasn't at all true. I mean, the church had had much, much greater days than those days since then. But you know what she was expressing? She was expressing the same thing that we express when we look back at when were we most intimate with God, and when was it most powerful for us, and she's expressing that that's when her deepest relational connection was. I mean, that's when she was involved in service. I mean, she's involved in service, and she's involved in the lives of the people that were there. I mean, she was a person that poured a lot of time and energy into the names that she mentioned. I mean, that was a time in which God was doing something through her. And if we'll look back and we'll say, man, I want you to know right here, right in this moment is when that's the best it's been. You know what I bet it's connected with even in our own lives? It's connected when we are most connected with each other. we're most connected with the body of believers. I mean, we have a group that, man, our group is tied together, and we love each other, and we're helping each other, and we're caring for each other, and it's connected with the power of God moving through us to make a difference in this world. And that's when we say, wow, God was so intimate. I knew him so deeply then. I just don't feel him like I used to. Well, here's the truth. It's absolutely tied to embracing God's family and embracing his mission. Because God has a missional place for each one of us in his family. So if you were here last week, last week you saw a little bit about some of the things we do for mission and maybe a little bit of the plan. I mean, we were a little video heavy last week, right? It's like, man, we were like, I don't know how many videos we had, 4. I don't know. It's like, hey, let's pray. No, let's record it and show it. But anyhow, we did a lot of videos last week. Good things, good videos, but did a lot of videos. But you saw, if you watched it, you saw a little bit of the missional kind of plan roll out. Like you saw a little bit about how we are like reaching out to local community. Right? You saw a little video about Food Truck Sunday, and you know why we did Food Truck Sunday, right? I mean, we did Food Truck Sunday because we all got to be together and celebrate together, but at the same time, it gave us a unique reason to reach out to somebody we've been praying for. It gave a unique reason to invite somebody to try out the church community and Jesus' people in like a non-confrontational, maybe perhaps fun setting. So that's why we did it. And then if you were here last week, you saw a little bit of the MMA group, right, in the vision moment. The mixed martial art group pursuit that happens. And what is that? I mean, that's just an opportunity. And Luke did a great job explaining that it's just another opportunity to reach out in Jesus' name, to try to get those connected with Christ and to consider him in a format that maybe normally they wouldn't do. So, and then you can go on and name other little items like that that's established throughout the life of our church, kind of our missional outreach, a reason for us to work together and reach out to those connected to us. But then you see an expansive reach also, sort of the cup of cold water that we offer. So you saw our teens in the Bahamas and what it is that they did and accomplished, and that was offering a cup of cold water in Jesus' name to that third world country and the people that live there. And you heard about the orphanage being near completion, and it'll open up as a full-fledged orphanage in January, and you saw that. And we've been talking about the village Norristown and how we're reaching out in very compassionate and meaningful ways and in that setting. And you do get the whole idea of a cup of cold water, right? I mean, a cup of cold water, man, it's just an opportunity to reach out and connect with somebody in a way that's meaningful for them, that helps them. And everybody sometimes is a little bit different in what they'll receive. So some of us here this morning, some of us are experiencing the intimacy with God in powerful ways in our lives right now. And some of us aren't. Some of us are in the group that says, man, God's distant. And when we're not experiencing intimacy with God, I think sometimes it happens because we get stuck. We just get stuck, like we get stuck in our disappointment. The family of God didn't react the way I expected them to react. They didn't do what it is that I thought they should do. They weren't as loving. They weren't as kind. They weren't of all of their warts and hairy warts and warts that are all sorts of different, like just were all over their body. And sometimes we just get stuck there. We get stuck with our disappointment with the family of God. We don't forgive. We don't move on. We haven't come to the place where we just embrace the family, warts and all. We get stuck. Or maybe we get stuck in our analytical, like dissecting mindset about mission, right? We get stuck in that. And we can't participate because we're preoccupied in trying to figure out whether it's the right cup of water or not. Have you ever been there? I mean, I've been there, where it's like, hey, I don't know whether that's the right cup of water to offer or not. And kind of this is my thought. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me, but my thought is, man, in a place like the village here, we have so many different varieties of the cups of water to offer. Don't get so caught up dissecting and all of that stuff. Grab the cup of water that resonates with you and start sharing it. Just start sharing it. And I think what's going to happen if you can somehow embrace the family warts and all and get over maybe some of the disappointments and if you can start sharing those cups of water, whatever it is that resonates with you, I think you're going to experience God in a whole new way. You're going to like enter and walk through that Gethsemane. You know, there's only really one that I know of that gets excited when you get stuck. Now, there is one that gets excited when you get stuck. And that's Satan. You know, Satan gets excited when we get stuck. Because this is what he knows. He knows when we get stuck, we end up living a frustrated life rather than a fulfilling life. And Satan knows this to be true. When God's people embrace each other with his grace and his love and his mercy, and man, forgiveness is running through us. And when we embrace each other and we embrace mission, he knows that God is unstoppable through us. So he loves it when we get stuck, and we're miserable when we get stuck. So here's kind of what I want us to do, even on this holiday weekend. Maybe I should have preached like a message that was a little more fun than, holiday weekend. I should have. But here's what I want us to do. I want to give you an invitation to Gethsemane. I want to give you an invitation where God moves from being father to being daddy. I want to give you a chance to get rid of your disappointment. Man, to give out the grace and the forgiveness and to embrace. And I give you a chance to grab a cup of cold water and just begin offering that. Because I believe it's in the midst of that, to embracing God's family and all of its fullness and buying into what God is doing. And I think it's in that where we find this incredible intimacy with him. So this is the exercise we're going to participate in this morning to kind of help us think through this. We're going to participate in our family meal. We're going to do our traditional family meal. You know we have one, right? You know what our traditional family meal is? Thanksgiving, we all eat turkey, right? Christmas at the Bennett household, we eat ham. Have since I've been born. It's the only meal I remember consuming on Christmas. And, when Dora married, the deal was right after, for sickness and in health, and ham on Christmas. It was just a part of the deal. It's what we do. And we have our own family meal. We gather around our family table. We do it here on a regular basis. We do it every month. And what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to remind us of how Jesus himself embraced us and how he stuck to a mission that transformed our lives. So we take the body and we take the blood. And man, we consume it. And the big lesson is it's through him that, man, we have our hope and we have our strength and we have our... So this morning, I want to do something unique with this. I want us to gather around our family table. And I want us to do whatever needs to happen, whatever conversation we need to have with God to get over any hang-ups we might have with the family. And to embrace his mission for our lives. I want that to happen for you around our family table, whatever it takes. So we're going to do communion by intinction. We do this every once in a while. There'll be 4 stations up here, and there'll be people that will serve communion. And even when the elements are passed, the concept is we don't take communion, right? Because we don't take things from God. I mean, especially when it comes to grace, we receive his grace. So as the teams take their positions, when you get up out of your seat and you walk forward to participate in communion, you don't reach out and take the elements. You cup your hands and you receive it. And one will take the wafer and they'll say, this is the body of Christ, and you'll receive it. And then you'll take it over to the juice and you'll dip it into the juice. And one will say, this is the blood of Christ. And then you'll cup your hands underneath of it. And that's not really theological. It's just to save the carpet, right? So you'll do that. And then if you want to participate in it there, you do that. If you want to kneel at the altars and pray before you participate in, you do that. If you want to participate in it and pray, if you want to go back to your seat, if you want to, you do whatever it is you need to do to experience our Heavenly Father as Daddy. You get rid of your family stuff. You confess whatever sins you're dealing with. You create that pure heart. And in the same moment, you receive his mission for you, his purpose. Jesus, I thank you for your grace and your mercy, your love and your power in this place. You are so good to us, God. And what a powerful emblem here. The broken body and the shed blood. You know, the cup that you received and the cup that you went through for the family. Establishing our bloodline that runs from Calvary's Hill. Now, Lord, this morning I pray that you would do a powerful work in us. A work in us that will connect us together around our table and connect us to what you want to accomplish in this world. Do it in us, Lord, and Lord, do it through us as we embrace family and mission. We love you, Jesus. We praise you. In your name, amen. Respond when you're ready.